He checked into the hotel, but he didn't have any luggage. And once he was inside, he kept all the lights turned off. As the days passed, loud voices could be heard from his door. And soon enough, he was found tied up and stabbed inside his room. He was rushed to the hospital where he passed away. Later, an anonymous caller paid for his funeral, where they sent exactly 13 roses. Police later discovered he had been using a fake name, but with no clear suspect, his murder is still unsolved to this day.
Royal guards faint all of the time, and believe it or not, there is apparently a fainting protocol they have to follow. In order to faint properly, guards must learn how to faint to attention. This means if they start falling, they must pitch forward onto their front while still holding their rifles securely, which is why they typically end up looking like this. 3 men were banned from Yellowstone National Park, and the reason why is kind of weird. You see, a ranger received a report that these men were carrying around chickens. When the ranger finally found them, they were cooking these chickens in a hot spring. What was supposed to be just a nice chicken dinner ended with fines, jail time, and probation.
If you pick a 3-digit number like 861, where the first and last numbers have at least a difference of 2, and then flip it backwards and subtract the smaller number from the bigger one, flip that answer, and add these 2 numbers together, you'll get 1089 every time you use this pattern. You see, if you break the number apart, the middle digits match and cancel out when you subtract. This leaves you with the first number minus the last multiplied by 99. But if you look at the multiples of 99 between 2 and 9, they all have a matching pair that's flipped, giving you the same answer of 1089 every time. He used her fingerprints to open her phone and peeled back her eyelids using her face to unlock her bank account. You see, he was deep in debt from gambling, and when his ex-girlfriend got sick, he mixed cold medicine into her food, making her fall into a deep sleep. He sent himself over $20,000, which he used to pay off his debt, before running away to gamble even more. But when she woke up, she had several alerts from her bank, so she called the police and the man was eventually arrested. Take about $800 and stash it out of the other player's sight. And during the game, when it looks like you're about to run out of money and lose, you pull out the hidden cash. Do this a few times throughout the game, and you'll condition the other players to always assume you have a stash somewhere. Then, when no one's paying attention, you grab a mix of large bills from the bank, aiming to steal around $3,200. That's enough for 3 to 4 new stashes that you can work with. Now, when you're actually about to lose, you pull out the stolen cash, and no one will question where it came from.
Have you ever wondered why McDonald's soda tastes so good? Well, the company claims it's because of their chilling process, but the true reason has less to do with the actual drink. You see, McDonald's straws are actually a little wider than normal. This allows more flavor and carbonation to hit your tongue, making you think the soda tastes better.
If you clip their nail too far, the blade slices into a bundle of blood vessels and a nerve inside, causing it to gush out blood and send a sharp jolt of pain. But it's hard to see from the outside of the nail, so to avoid hitting it, start by trimming just the very tip of the nail. Then slowly shorten it into small slivers, stopping when you see a tiny dot. They glued the dead snail to a museum card before putting it on display, and it stayed in the same spot for years before they noticed that the card had become discolored. And when they removed it, they found a film over the shell's opening. So they placed it in warm water, and slowly the film softened, and the snail pushed its head out, still alive. It had survived by shutting its body down for 4 years until conditions were safe again. If you get buried by an avalanche, the snow will compress you on all sides, making it hard to tell which way is up. So if you try to dig your way out, you could end up going the wrong way and suffocate to death. Instead, some people say to cover your face and make an air pocket. Then start drooling. Whichever way the drool falls is down, so you should dig the opposite way. Turn one of the sticks over to cross the strings. Next, thread a stick under the strings so that each end rests on top of the other sticks. And do the same on the other side. Keep adding shorter and shorter sticks, building up the squares until you run out of space. Then add a row of small sticks to keep everything tight. And when you turn it over and add a rope handle, you'll have a homemade basket made out of sticks. If you were shrunk down and dropped in as Pac-Man, you would have to sprint through the maze at about 12 miles per hour to escape the ghosts. But every time you eat a dot, you would slow down for a split second, letting the ghost creep closer behind you. You would also have to reduce your speed to make turns, while ghosts can turn almost instantly. And as you move through higher boards, you would have to increase your speed to 15 miles per hour, meaning one slow turn and one dot at the wrong time, the gap disappears and the ghosts will catch you.
This is what the Starbucks logo would look like from behind. This is her tail and it is spread wide open. Now I have to warn you, the history is creepy and you might not want to drink Starbucks afterwards. But if you want to learn the ugly truth, check out my latest video on my channel page.
He was pulled over for not wearing a seatbelt, and officers gave him a test to see if he had been drinking, but they had to run the test again. The man refused and walked toward the back of his van, saying that he was going to kill them. He yanked open the van doors, releasing his full hive of honeybees that he kept in the back. The swarm exploded into the air, stinging officers as they sprinted for cover. Backup finally arrived and arrested the man, but he paid bail and was released just hours later.
Have you ever wondered how people woke up before alarm clocks were invented? Well, you might think they just woke up naturally in those days, but that wasn't always the case. In the 1800s, people were actually hired to be alarm clocks. They were called knocker-uppers, and they stayed up the entire night to make sure workers woke up in time.
Wrap the cable around Mount Fuji's base before the massive motors pull it tight, which will separate billions of tons of rock from the bedrock below. Then drill thousands of deep shafts, driving giant steel anchors deep into the rock, and pump grout to lock them into the mountain's core before wrapping the outside with steel mesh and massive bands. Then use a ring of rockets and cables to lift the entire thing and turn it in the air by adjusting the cable lengths. Once it's flipped, carve a giant hole in the bottom and attach a frictionless bearing inside before threading a cord into the hole and locking it into the shaft. Then connect the cord to thousands of fighter jets that will pull it to make the mountain spin. If you play a game of chess, every move you make creates a unique path from start to finish. Now, your friend plays a separate game, and even if it looks similar, one different move makes it a completely different game. And if everyone on Earth started playing billions of full games, each one has its own exact sequence of moves. Then, if they all play again and again for their entire lives, you would get trillions of games, and almost none of them would repeat. This is because every move opens new choices, and those choices branch into even more, until the total number of possible games becomes so massive that even if every atom in the observable universe played one unique game per second since the Big Bang, they still wouldn't come close to playing them all. He started painting walls as a teen, and his art spread across the city. People recognized it everywhere, making him a legend. But he got sick with a disease that paralyzed his body, and for 7 years, he could only move his eyes. So a team of programmers built him a pair of glasses with a camera. It tracked his eyes and moved a cursor on the screen. He would stare at a color to select it before moving the cursor to draw lines, as the device turned them into brushstrokes. The team projected the art onto buildings across the world, and from his hospital bed, he could paint again.
This is the Starbucks logo from behind. Her tail is spread wide open and her chest is bare. Now, I have to warn you, the reason for this design is kind of creepy, and you might not drink Starbucks afterwards. But if you want to learn the disturbing truth, the link is in the comments.
You would tap the pen against the car and pull it away to reveal a colored rating. Inside the pen is a long magnet. When it's pressed against a brand new car, only a thin layer of paint separates the metal from the magnet. This makes the magnet stick for longer, as the rest of the pen pulls up higher to reveal a green rating. But if the car was badly damaged and patched up with putty, the pen barely sticks at all, showing a black rating and letting you spot hidden repairs in just seconds. His house was in the way of the new road. They needed to bulldoze it. So they offered him over $200,000, but he refused. So they built the road around his house instead. They buried a concrete pipe that connected his house with the outside world, meaning the only way in or out was through a tunnel. But cars passed by all day and night, surrounding the house with noise, and large trucks made the whole thing shake. So he finally moved out and regretted not taking the money.
If you've ever wondered why dog toys squeak, well, I have the answer, and it's kind of disturbing. You see, even though the noise is annoying to us, dogs love it because of their wolf ancestry. The squeaking activates their hunting instinct because it's the same sound a small animal makes when it's dying. Have you ever wondered what's on the inside of a Kit Kat bar? Well, they claim it's just a crisp wafer, but what they actually use to make it might surprise you. You see, some Kit Kats get broken while they're being made, and instead of throwing them out, the company crushes them up and adds sugar, and that's what's on the inside of a Kit Kat bar. It's literally crushed up Kit Kats. Have you ever wondered why we get goosebumps? I mean, they don't seem like they have an actual purpose. So what's the deal? Well, we know that goosebumps elevate body hair, and for animals, this makes them warmer and appear larger. But what about humans? Why do we get them? Well, scientists say it's just a leftover trait from when we had more hair.
He would slide the arrow into the tube, then hide it in his sleeve. Inside the tube sat a compressed spring, held back by a small trigger. And when he flicked his wrist and pressed the trigger, the spring snapped forward, and the arrow shot straight out of his sleeve. Now, some versions had 2 barrels to fire twice in a row, and others even had multiple tubes to launch several at once, allowing you to shoot from close range while the weapon stays hidden.
Bob Ross actually hated his poofy hair, but he was kind of forced to keep it. You see, when he was first starting out, he needed to save money any way he could. So he decided to grow his hair out so he wouldn't have to pay for haircuts. And by the time he became rich and famous, it was too late. His hair had become his brand, and cutting it would be terrible for business.
They drilled a hole into a plastic tube after breaking into the grocery store. You see, that tube was used to move cash into a locked vault. So they pushed a vacuum cleaner through the opening and sucked the money out. For years, the men robbed 15 stores this way, stealing over $800,000 in cash. They were finally caught on camera, but were never identified. They kidnapped the musician, according to the story. And when they arrived, he realized he was at the headquarters of a mafia boss who happened to love his music. So he was forced to play piano for the mobster's birthday. But according to him, he was showered with money and poured glass after glass of expensive champagne. After 3 days of performing, he was let go with his pockets stuffed full of cash and a great story. The edges are shaved down and it's slotted into a wooden frame. In wet weather, this wood expands, pressing further into the slots. And when it dries out, it shrinks, but not so much that it falls out. Since the frame locks it in at the corners, the wood can't really warp. And when these panels make up a door, they can move around freely as the weather changes. You see, if the door was made of only one big piece of wood, the whole thing would warp as the weather changed, which is why they use these panels instead. You can scroll on your phone or work on the assignment. Most people choose the phone, but it's not just because scrolling is more entertaining. It's because it delivers effortless attention. We're immediately locked in, and our brains love this. Scrolling immerses you in seconds, and assignments, well, they feel like they take forever to get going. But if you commit, remove distractions, and give the assignment the same attention you give scrolling, you'll be surprised at how locked in you feel within just 10 minutes. Remove the cards from the box and slit the bottom flap before flattening it, rolling it up, and stuffing it into the bottle. Use long tweezers to pop the box back open while reshaping it to look normal. Next, bend a playing card to fit through the bottleneck and into the card box. Keep repeating this until the entire deck is gone, and when you're done, you can show all of your friends the deck in the bottle. He adopted the baboon as a pet and brought it along with him when he joined the army. He gave him a uniform and made him an official mascot. The monkey marched with the troops and lived in the trenches and even helped keep guard, tugging at the soldier's clothes if he heard an enemy approaching. When his owner was shot in the shoulder, the baboon tried to save him by licking the wound. Not long after, they were struck with a shell, which blew off most of the animal's leg. But both of them survived, and they were sent home as heroes.
Have you ever wondered why so many fast food signs are red? I mean, can you think of any fast food sign that doesn't include the color red? Why is this? Well, some people think the color red triggers hunger in our brain, but that's actually not true. Studies have shown that this color makes us stop, look, and pay attention, which makes it a really good choice for fast food signs.
He pulled the bearings out of a skateboard and wrapped an old tube around them, then added a motor and put it in the fish tank. Next, he injected a shrimp with bacteria and let it run on the tiny treadmill before measuring the bacteria again. This showed how much bacteria stayed inside the shrimp and how many germs people might eat when it was served. But when people saw the experiment, they were outraged, saying millions had been spent on shrimp fitness, even though the scientist paid for it himself, and it only cost $50. They pried the mirror off of the shower wall because they kept hearing a strange ringing sound, and they were shocked to find a hidden camera inside. They followed the cable through the house until they discovered a hard drive hidden in a closet, and suddenly realized their landlord had been watching them. But when police checked the drive, they found no files. Now, this could mean it was streaming in real time, leaving no trace. But since there were no recordings, no one was charged. And the house mysteriously burnt down 2 weeks later, almost killing their teenage son. When the father went back to look through the rubble, he cut his leg, and it got so infected that he had to have it amputated, meaning the family lost a leg, their home, and their privacy, while the landlord got away scot-free.
Have you ever wondered why beer is always sold in glass bottles? I mean, soda is sold in plastic bottles, but beer isn't. So what's the deal? Well, some people think it's because of tradition, but the actual reason is more important than that. You see, plastic is porous, and this means that bottling in plastic negatively affects the taste and carbonation level of the beer. Did you know the color of those little bread tags actually means something? You see, bread is one of the most sold items in grocery stores, which means there is a lot of it coming in and out. So to help employees quickly see how fresh the bread is, bakers added these tags. Each color corresponds to the day of the week that the bread was baked.
The plastic cups are placed next to each eye, covering its side view, while a fuzzy tube is bent over its nose to block out the shadows on the ground. You see, horses can normally see almost everything around them, meaning small movements can easily distract them. By leaving only a tiny space for its vision, the horse can only see the path in front, and the distractions fade away as the horse crosses the finish line. Because when the distractions disappear in our life, the path forward usually becomes obvious. When you spray a German cockroach with poison, a special enzyme inside its body breaks down the chemicals before they can damage the roach's nerves, meaning the poison doesn't work. And if that roach lays eggs, many of their babies will inherit the same protection. Within months, those babies will have more babies, and eventually, most of the colony is safe from the poison. Now, a whole new group can survive the same poison and even stronger chemicals until you're left with roaches that nothing can kill except a stomp. Place a domino on the ground, then make the next one 30% bigger. And if you keep increasing their size, the 20th domino would be taller than a house, and the 45th would be higher than Mount Everest. Now, when you tip over the first one, each domino has just enough energy to knock over the next. But the 74th domino would weigh more than the Earth. And at that scale, the domino would have such strong gravity that they would start pulling the Earth and each other toward a shared center of mass.
If you've ever wondered where fat goes when you lose weight, well, I have the answer, and it's kind of bizarre. You see, most people assume that fat just disappears when you lose weight, but that's not really the case. It turns out that most of the fat you lose is exhaled when you breathe, and the rest comes out through urine, sweat, and tears.
Interlock your fingers tightly and fold them down. Then press the back edge of your palms together. Next, offset the bottom of your hand so the gaps are sealed tight. And press your thumbs together, leaving a small hole between them. Fold them down, then purse your lips and press your top lip on the knuckles of your thumb. Breathe out like a heavy sigh, directing the air down into your hand before it comes back out the same hole. If it doesn't work the first time, adjust your fingers, the angle of your mouth, and the speed of your breath until you hear a bird whistling from your hands.
Did you know the Easter Island heads actually have full-length bodies? These sculptures were buried thousands of years ago due to shifting sediment, and this created the illusion that they stopped at the neck. But in 2010, a team of archaeologists dug these statues up, revealing that they had full bodies with intricate designs carved into them.
Under this carnival ride, you would bolt a 70-foot frying pan and leave a hole in the center so the spinning arm can still turn. Then crack about 2 million eggs into the pan, and when the ride starts, the arms whip the pan in circles. This perfectly mixes the yolks and the whites like a whisk and soaks the riders inside. Then hire dozens of men with blowtorches to scorch the bottom of the pan. As the eggs cook, the spinning ride would keep folding them over. The riders might sustain some burns and other injuries, but you'll have hundreds of pounds of scrambled eggs to share. If you slice them in half and tape them together like this, you can then cut a window into the box so you can see inside. So when you place them on top, they fill the window perfectly. And if you pinch the box gently, they'll stay in place. Now, when you show your friends, it looks like a normal box of crowns. But when you wave your other hand in front of the box and release the pressure from your fingers, the halves will drop down out of sight, making it look like they vanished into thin air. If you took every single block from the Great Pyramid and stacked them into one giant tower, that tower would be nearly 2,000 Burj Khalifas tall, blowing way past the International Space Station straight into space. But if we took all those blocks and flattened them into one giant walkout, it would take the king of boxing, Alexander Usyk, over 20 straight days of walking to make his fight with the the king of kickboxing, Rico Verhoeven, at the pyramids of Giza. Two champions of different fighting styles facing off at the most iconic place on Earth. And you can watch this epic event on Saturday, May 23rd, exclusively on DAZN.
Have you ever wondered why bagels have a hole in the middle? Well, some people think this is just for aesthetics, but the true reason is actually pretty important. You see, when bagels are placed in the oven, the outer part of the dough starts to cook first, but because of the hole, the heat circulates up through the middle, which bakes the bagel more evenly, and this results in a perfectly cooked bagel.
Have you ever done one of these security tests? Well, what if I were to tell you that you've been misled? You see, most people assume it's just a way to prove you're a real person. But have you ever noticed almost all of these tests are related to road activity? Well, it turns out that your answers are being stored as data, and that data is being used to teach cars how to self-drive. Have you ever wondered why Walmart has greeters at the door? Well, if you thought the main purpose was just to greet people, you'd be wrong. The actual reason is a little less friendly. You see, Walmart greeters first popped up in 1980 when a local manager noticed that shoplifters were less likely to steal if they were greeted at the door.
He built a wooden frame in the shape of a Lamborghini, then used a turning wheel to shape pieces of aluminum to the body. Next, he welded the chassis, and over the course of 17 years, he put all the pieces together, adding an engine, seats, wheels, and lights. But since he had used his basement as a workshop, he couldn't get the car out. So he got a backhoe to dig a hole down to his basement. Then he created a ramp before knocking down the wall and pulling his dream car out on a sled. The pilot would pull the ejection handle, igniting a small rocket under his seat. This would cause his body to be slammed with over 1,000 pounds of force, all in less than a second. And this would squish his spine downwards, packing it so tightly that in some cases, his spine wouldn't be able to stretch back, which could leave him a little shorter than he was before.
Have you ever wondered why pen caps have those little holes in them? Well, most people think it has something to do with the ink, but the actual reason is much more important than that. Pen companies are actually required to add these little holes. You see, it's just enough space for airflow if the cap gets stuck in someone's throat.
There's this house in Poland that claims to be the narrowest house in the world. Now, there are many narrow homes around the globe, but what makes this house unique is the fact that it's only 4 feet wide. And despite its small size, it's a fully functional house with all the amenities of a modern home. What do you think? Could you live in a house this small?
Have you ever wondered where Mountain Dew got its name? Well, you might think it represents dew on a mountain, but that's actually not true. You see, two brothers created this drink in the 1930s, and they realized it tasted like moonshine when they mixed it with alcohol. So they decided to call it Mountain Dew, because Mountain Dew is actually old slang for moonshine.
Did you know Google is actually misspelled? If you search GOOGOL, you'll see the huge mathematical number 1 followed by 100 zeros. This is what the founders of the company wanted to name it. But when they registered the domain name, they accidentally misspelled it as GOOGLE, and the rest is history.
The Thailand government is mailing trash to people, and the reason why is kind of weird. You see, people who visited Khao Yai National Park had a really bad habit of leaving their trash behind. So the Thailand government decided to mail the trash back to these people. They made sure to leave a note saying they forgot something at the park. What do you think? Should the United States try this out?
If you plucked one single hair off Robert's head, he would look exactly the same. Now imagine you pluck another, and another, and soon you've taken dozens, maybe even 100. But Robert still looks normal. Now his hair might be slightly thinner, but no one would say he's bald. So you keep going. Hundreds turn into thousands. Now Robert's scalp is starting to peek through. People might say he's thinning, but he still wouldn't quite be bald. So what if you keep plucking until only 1,000 hairs remain? Well, at some point, he starts to be bald. But where exactly is that point? Some people say it's 0 hairs, which is indeed bald, but if you add 1 single hair, he's still bald. Even 10 hairs wouldn't make a difference. So where is the line? At what exact number of hairs does Robert stop being bald?
চুপ একদম চুপ 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 একদম চুপ ওর প্রেমে তো মায়া পড়বই পড়বো মায়ের মা পড়বো আমার সত্যি কথা বলছি তো মামা দূরে দূরে থাকে খাঁচায় ধরা দেয় না বাবা আপনি মহান বাবা
আচ্ছা আপনার কি মনে হয় না যে আপনি যাকে ভালোবাসেন আপনি যে মেয়েটাকে এত ভালোবাসেন
আমি তোর ভাবির বাসার সামনে তুই তাড়াতাড়ি লাগা দে তাবিজে লাগা দে
আপনাদের তো চিনলাম না আমার বড় বোনের যে দেবরগুলো আছেন তো সবাইকেই চিনি বাট আপনাদেরকে তো চিনি না
যাইতে দে তাহলে আমার খালা লাগে ভাই বলতা ভালোবাসা যে এত প্যারা এত কষ্ট এত জ্বালা যন্ত্রণা জানলে ভালোই বাসতাম জিসান আর তুলির ভালোবাসার ইতিহাস তাই রক্ত লাগবে
আসসালামু আলাইকুম দুলা ভাই
আরে শালা ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম কি খবর কেমন আছো
গলায় দড়ি লাগাই দিছে ভাবি
গলায় দড়ি দিছি মানে গলায় 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 কেন রেখেছেন আমাকে
কি খবর তোমাদের কেমন আছো তোমরা সবাই ভালো তো না তুমি জানো তোমার কালকে তো কতবার বলছি
হ্যালো আসসালামু আলাইকুম
ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম
কি রে হৃদয় রহিন মানা করতেছি
কিছু না কিছু ভাবি আপনি জানেন আমি একবার অসুস্থ হয়ে গেছিলাম ও আমাকে রক্ত দেয়নি আর আজকে আপনাকে রক্ত দিয়ে চিঠি লিখছে
আমাকে বুকিং দিছে মানে আমাকে কে বুকিং দিছে দোস্ত তোর যে আশিক আছে না এখন তো আমার পিছনে লাগছে
এই এই দুলাভাই সামনে থাকলে যে সালাম দিতে হয় আপনি শিখাই নাই তোরা কেমন আছো তুমি
ভালো
আমাকে জিজ্ঞেস করবো না রক্তটা দিবি তুই
আমি কেন রক্ত দেবো প্রেম খরচ তুই রক্ত
আমার বন্ধু জিসান আপনাকে অনেক ভালোবাসে ভাবি আপনার ওর রক্ত যাওয়াটা বিধা হতে দিবেন না ভাবি
কেন 073421924 এটা তোমার নাম্বার না
জি জি আপনি কেমন আছেন
ভালো নেই আমি ভালো নেই আমিও তোর মতোই ভাবতেছি রক্ত যদি দিঠা যায় না রক্তটা
আপনার কাছে এইটা আমার লাস্ট রিকোয়েস্ট ভাবি
আচ্ছা
কখন আসবে তোদের ভাবেই আর ভালো লাগতেছে না আমার সে যে কেন এলো
তুমি অনেক ভালো একটা মাইয়া, তোমার অনেক ভালো হবে।
আমার মা হাসপাতালে ভর্তি, ডাক্তার কইছে 2 ব্যাগ রক্ত আর 1 লাখ টাকা যদি আজকে
জন্য পাগল আর আপনি তানিয়ার জন্য পাগল।
আরে জুলি, এইটারে কয় ভালোবাসা। দাঁড়িয়া, তোমার হাতের রান্না।
তোমার বড় ভাইয়ের ভালো না থাকলে এখান থেকে চলে যেতে বলো।
আরে জুলি, তুমি আবার কি রাইখা কি
প্রেমে ফেলতে পারো, তাহলে আমি নিজে দাঁড়িয়ে থেকে তোমার আর তানিয়ার বিয়ে দিব।
সারাদিন ধরে ভিক্ষা করছে, আমাদের 1 লাখ টাকা আর 2 ব্যাগ রক্ত লাগবে। কি করবো বলো, আমি তো আর প্রফেশনাল রিক্সা চালক না, প্রেমিক রিক্সা চালক। আমার তাহলে ক কি লিখছস, কয় লাইন লিখছস ক।
সে কি তোরে খুব ডিস্টার্ব করতো? আরে না, আরে শোন না একবার কি।
আচ্ছা
ভাই আমাকে আপনার সাথে লেগে যান।
কাম তোরা, বুঝছি তো আমি, আজকে আমার বিজয়ের দিন। এখানে 100 কবিতা আছে, সার্ভিসটা তো একটু আলাদা থাকবে, তাই না?
দেখেন আমি কলেজে যাব, আমার দেরি হয়ে যাচ্ছে, এসব নাটক দেখা
আর কি ওই যে তানিয়া তো পড়াশোনা করে সন্ধ্যার সময় যদি একটু খায় মাথাটা ঠান্ডা। এই এগুলা কি? এই কার্ডের ভিতরে আমার মেয়ের নাম লেখা কেন? এই বাইরে মনে কর পিক করতে, বুঝছো? ওই যে আয়া পড়ছে আছে, আয়া বলছে